you live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And thank you guys for watching tonight's episode of the Cowboy Zone. We're coming off our bye week, so you know we had to come back big. We have a very special guest joining us from the LA Rams by way of, what part of Canada are you from?
I live in a small province of Nova Scotia, yes.
By way of Nova Scotia, Canada, and this is Payo Time, Rams YouTuber and content creator. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to break down this game. Marcus been a fan of your channel for a couple of years now, and yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't know what exactly to expect in this game. You know, in thinking up to it, there's a couple of different ways I could see it going.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Especially us coming off the bye week. We got the big win against the LA Chargers, but it was definitely not up to our expectations as fans. So we assume they tweaked a couple of things coming out the bye week, and hopefully we're going to see a better product. But with this Cowboys team, you never can tell.
Fair enough.
All right, I see we got a couple of people joining us in the lives. Got Grandizer joining. So he's one of your fans?
Oh yeah, he's a Dolphins fan, but he's a huge supporter of my channel. He actually sent me this shirt and this hat. But yeah, okay. Grandizer is an amazing person to have subscribed to your channel.
Well, Grandizer, thank you for joining. I remember the name from last time, so I appreciate you joining us in the Cowboy Zone again this week. I see we got a couple of my regulars joining in the comments. Got my guy Mendoza. Thank you for joining us as always. Appreciate your support. I got one of my classmates, Raphael Govan, diehard Cowboy fan also. Thank you for tuning in as well. And then we got my guy Jack Meeker joining us early in the show. Definitely appreciate you tuning in as well. So see the comments are going. And we got another guy, Keystone Cowboy. He normally comes in about 20 minutes into the show, but he was able to stop by early this week. So Keystone, thank you for tuning in. I don't know if you follow the show, but these guys, like, they could literally have their own podcast. These are some very knowledgeable guys in the comments,
awesome.
And they help fuel the Cowboys on with great questions, comments, and feedback. So I see Grandizer coming with a question: who's favorite? Dallas Cowboys favored by 6.5, over under 45 via DraftKings. We're gonna talk about that in a minute, Grandizer. I didn't realize we were favored by that much. That's very interesting. We got a lot to talk about though. So we're gonna get into it. As you guys know, we didn't have a game last week because of our bye week, so we have no game recap. Storylines, it's been pretty dry in Cowboy Nation for the past 2 weeks, surprisingly. And actually, to me, that's a good thing. We got a lot of trade rumors going out. None of them are really worth anything of note. So not a lot to talk about off the field. So lucky for us on the Cowboy Zone today, we get to keep it between those white lines. And Keystone saying, I know when you go live now with the YouTube notifications. So yeah, if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you follow Keystone's lead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also hit that bell so that you'll be notified of any future Cowboy Zone episodes. And also we have a very special announcement we'll be making at the end of the show related to YouTube.
I'm excited. Okay, very cool.
So Jack Meeker asked the question, we're going to elevate the new tight end. That's a good question, Jack. In my opinion, I doubt it, just because the ones we have are pretty experienced, and he's coming in pretty late in the game. And also we have a lot of different other players that we need to promote. As you guys know, the rules in the CBA state that any team can elevate 2 practice squad players on a weekly basis. As you guys know, we signed Rashawn Evans, linebacker, former first-round pick of the Titans. We did not see him play in the Chargers game, so I would expect that he's going to at least be one of the guys who's brought up from the practice squad this week. The second one's probably up in the air. It could be that tight end. It could be Sean McEwen, or it could be another linebacker / safety, because you guys know how we like to fill that position on game day. All right, guys, so let's get right into it. We're going to start our first segment of the show with some of the key matchups that you can look for in this week's game. Should be a great game, a lot of great matchups. We're very familiar with this team. Couple of new players, though. We're going to get Payo Time's opinion on some of
Yeah.
these guys to find out what he thinks about that player and their matchup against some of our Cowboys players.
Key matchups.
All right, so first key matchup, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show, because I am not familiar with Kobe Durant. I think he's a 5th round pick from last year. That's all I know. I've watched him play a couple games this year, but I'm not familiar with him as a player. Tell us a little bit about Kobe Durant.
So Kobe Durant, he's definitely he's a second-year player. He's been hit or miss. For a late round draft pick, he is developing into a quality corner. The Rams secondary kind of at the beginning of the season had this narrative that no one knew who any of the players on the Rams secondary was. But Ram fans were all excited of we've seen Kobe Durant, we've seen Darian Kendrick, we believe in them. Russ Yeast at safety has been playing really well this year. Jordan Fuller, I firmly believe that man should be president of the United States. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL, but no one knows who he is except for Ram fans. And so I know you were asking about Kobe Durant, but I just used that to highlight. And I didn't even mention Ahkello Weatherspoon, who's playing amazing. And it wouldn't surprise me if Weatherspoon actually kind of covered CeeDee Lamb a little bit more. But specifically to the matchup, CeeDee Lamb, he's a handful, right? When you look at the play sheet, and I'm sure Raheem Morris in his meeting, when you look at Dallas's offense, probably the first player you got to have a game plan for is CeeDee Lamb. Really, really, big fan of Kobe Durant, and I think CeeDee Lamb will have a game. What I'm curious about is what can we do for the other wide receivers and tight ends of the Cowboys. It's kind of one of those games. Okay, Lamb's going to get his production. He's going to produce. But is anyone else on the Cowboys going to be able to step up? And that's where I think the Rams defense has a shot. So I'm really excited to see the matchup. I love seeing talented players go up against other talented players.
Okay. And Keystone giving us a little bit of information about Kobe Durant, South Carolina State guy. So he's from a HBCU, plays zone and man, solid versus Jackson State in the Bahamas Bowl. Keystone's one of our big draft guys, him
That's
along
awesome.
with Mendoza. Like, those guys can teach a class on who to pick up and what to look for. So anytime he talks about a guy, you always got to pay attention. So you brought up some of your other corners, and Grandizer brought up this one, which I was going to get to in a second, because I'm a Clemson fan, so I've been following Kendrick his whole career. So we won't start with Kendrick.
Yeah.
To the other side. Because when I watch you guys play, it looks like you don't move your corners. So and we don't move our receivers. So when you look at us play, Lamb is either going to be at the slot or he's going to be on the offensive right side of the field.
Yeah.
And from watching you guys play, it looks like Ahkello Weatherspoon plays almost always on the offensive right side. So unless he flip-flops or we flip-flop, they would probably never get matched up against each other.
I will say it's been a bit different this year on defense, because so last year and for many years up to last year, we had Jalen Ramsey, who he played that star corner position where they would move him around the field. With his departure, we've seen Raheem Morris coach this defense with more of kind of a set scheme. The term and I can't believe it, bend but don't break defense,
Uh-huh.
which everyone says. The
Yeah.
Rams probably like play that more than any other team. They love to narrow, at the least amount of big plays as possible. And the Rams, like, often they do hold teams to a field goal or less. And that's in the NFL, that's kind of what the goal is for most defenses.
Right.
So yeah, I like I said, I'm excited for this secondary, and yeah, I'll be curious to see how CeeDee Lamb matches up with Ahkello Witherspoon, or if the Rams do kind of shake up their secondary a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I watched 3 games, and I did not see Witherspoon leave the right side of the field.
Yeah.
But talking about that, and Keystone, I see your comment. I'll get to it in a second. When I look at that matchup with Michael Gallup, I feel like that is a perfect matchup for Witherspoon because he's a long corner. I remember him from Colorado. Shocked he didn't play safety in the league, but he's proven me wrong as a corner. He's very long, very good athleticism, great ball skills. I think I saw a stat he's only given up like 11 catches all year, and he's been playing some serious number ones out there.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like the Rams signed him, and he had a stint with the Steelers, stint with the Seahawks, stint with the Niners beforehand, and for whatever reason, this is the year that Witherspoon just decided to be one of the best corners in the NFL for the first half of the season.
Yep. So now I get the Keystone's comment, and I want to ask you about this. Great question, Keystone. So looking at the corners, he talks about Duke Shelley saying he's their best guy. Now, the 3 games I watched, I didn't see him touch the field. It was 100% Witherspoon, Kendrick, and Durant. So what's going on with Duke Shelley?
Yeah, so Duke Shelley, young player that's developing. I don't think I can't even say the amount of, he's been on the field a few times. It hasn't been like he definitely on the depth chart is lower, but he would be in that rotation. Yeah.
Okay. So so now we got to talk about him. Darion Kendrick from Clemson. So I saw you and Grandize are both kind of looking a little bit deflated when the name was brought up. So what is it about Kendrick that you don't like this year? What
do you know about his off the field issue that happened?
No, I'm not familiar with off the field.
Okay, so this is why we don't talk about him. He was a couple weeks ago after the Rams beat the Cardinals in LA, there was some sort of altercation where he was in possession of a weapon.
Okay.
And I'm always cautious talking about these things on the internet because I don't know anything more than that, really.
Yeah.
But it was a bad look. It was a bad look.
Gotcha.
And I believe he was like arrested into custody, but then released. He is, as far as I know, practicing with the team again. Okay. The only the Rams have handled the situation really well that it didn't become a big national media story. The only thing Sean McVay said about it in a press conference once is that they've talked it out and they're glad that everyone came out of the situation safe. And that's really all we know about it. It was just a bad look, and you hope that Darion Kendrick learns from it and can avoid those kind of off the field altercations.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the big key matchup that everybody's really interested in, and we can get more in depth on this one. And this is that 3-headed monster you guys have in the receiving core right now, which has completely caught everybody off guard, at least for 2 of the 3. So going back to a question Jack Meeker asked, how has Kupp been playing since he made it back? Because all I've seen is Puka, and I'm just wondering, how's Kupp been playing since he's been back the past couple of weeks?
He's been playing well. He had a bad game. He had a bad game versus the Steelers, but the Rams' offense as a whole was out of sync that game. It was very frustrating to watch. Cup drop passes that he normally never drops. Like he had 2 drops early on that were just so uncharacteristic for him. And I would say if you have a ticked off Cooper Kupp and you're playing against him, that's a scary thing. So I'm really curious to see Cooper Kupp coming off of a bad performance because he hasn't had many in his entire career.
Yeah.
That being said, Puka Nacua has been a superstar 5th round pick early this year. He's been a lot of fun to watch. He's already one of the Ramleys' favorite players is Puka Nacua now, just because he came in the league that way. And Tutu Atwell been really encouraged by his development as a wide receiver. He's someone that the Rams drafted in the 2nd round in 2021, and he's one of those people. Yeah, like he got the ring, but he didn't really do a lot during the ring run. So it's been cool to see that. It's something they called the King Ghidorah. Oh, granddad. So that's I love the King Kong reference there. But yeah, I really am looking forward to when this offense is in sync and they're still figuring it out. They have not, besides week 1, they have not had a complete 4-quarter game this season.
Yeah.
And I do think that when that happens, the team that's playing them will regret it. And so I'm hoping that's this. I'm hoping that's this week against the Cowboys.
So I've watched a couple of games just to see how Puka performs. Just without watching, I think people assume he's kind of playing the Cup role. But when I see him play, he's playing like a true X receiver. He's just out there cooking guys on an island. Is that kind of a good assessment?
Some games, I would say he truly is playing a Robert Woods type of role when Woods was with the Rams, and they move their wide receivers all over the field.
Right.
Like that's something that in McVay's offense, you pretty much every receiver will play the slot and also the X position. Like they'll move them around. And you'll see a lot of 11-man personnel out of this team. You'll see a lot like the amount of time that when I'm calling a game, I say, "Oh, Stafford's in the gun." It's pretty much like I would say 70% of the time, and then he goes under center, and they're likely going to run the ball if that happens. It's kind of annoying that I can tell. Definitely Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Tutu Atwell. There are some pass catchers that if they all get in rhythm with Stafford, it can be a very dangerous passing game.
Yeah. So guys in the comments, let me know which one of these 3 receivers concerns you the most, because I feel like my answer may be different from everyone else's.
And I would love to hear your take. How Dallas has one of the best corners, cornerback room in the entire league. How do you think they match up?
So I don't know if you're paying attention to the comments I'm putting up here, talking about Puka versus Gilmore. That one is a concern for us because Gilmore's been showing his age the past couple of weeks. When we had Trayvon Diggs and we were able to kind of throw a little bit more coverage to Gilmore's side, he was looking good. And then we had Bland in the slot, so that was taken care of. But now we've asked Gilmore to kind of be a number 1, number 2 guy, and his age has clearly caught up with him because Joshua Palmer and Keenan Allen in the last game just kept running drag routes, and he was 5 yards behind. Yeah, and like Keystone says, we're gonna miss Diggs this game. Now, with that being said, I know you say you guys move receivers around a lot. Is it more of taking advantage of matchups, or is it kind of just to get everybody in different positions? How would you describe it?
So I would describe the Rams will pick on your weak corner.
Oh, that's not good for us.
No. That's something McVay has done his whole career. Like if he sees something he can exploit, like he will toss. That's why there's some games where Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua or Robert Woods back in the day, they'd get like 15 targets in the game. It's because they're picking on someone, right? And especially like if I've seen it so many times where for whatever reasons teams have to go into some sort of formation where a linebacker is on Cup.
Yeah.
And the Rams just take advantage of it every time.
Yeah. Well,
So
you won't have that problem with us because our linebackers are pretty much safeties.
They can cover. Okay. Yeah.
All of our linebackers are safeties at this point because we lost LVE and Damone Clark.
Right.
They don't put him in coverage at all. Our other linebackers that play linebacker for us are strong safeties, and they're all like 6'4", run 4.5. So they're pretty athletic guys. And Grandize is saying Puka is an X who plays like an X slot and Z. And that's kind of what I was thinking as well. Kind of how he plays.
Yep.
So like my guy Raphael says, this is the one that concerns me. Because like I said, Gilmore has problems with speed. Watching Puka play, he has great hands, great catch radius, very good route runner, but he's not a run past you type guy. He's really just a run a route and expose you.
Yeah.
I feel like Gilmore can do okay with that because he can at least be in the area and he knows how to use his length to separate players from the ball or get in front of it. Ball skills with our corners are never concerned with me, and that's for Deron Bland also.
Okay.
The problem is speed, and Tutu is a legit 4.3 guy.
Yeah.
And if he's put out wide and they don't play off 8 yards, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting Tutu to at least get one on us, and we play a lot of man, a lot of cover one man. So our safeties haven't been playing their best this year. So if Hooker doesn't get over there and Tutu's running that 9 route, it's going to be a long day.
And maybe that's something we see here. There's been a couple times this year that they have hit Tutu on the deep ball. He has developed into more than a one-trick pony. That was kind of his MO for the first part of his career. But this season, he's really developed the full route tree.
Mm-hmm.
I will just quickly flash back. There was one play against the Eagles when the Rams played them that Tutu burned their entire secondary, and Stafford just missed him. Like, it was so frustrating.
I remember the play.
If they make that, Rams probably win that game and beat the Eagles. It was so frustrating.
I see Keystone saying I'm starting Tutu in my fantasy league.
All right. Well, maybe I'll toss him in my lineup too. I use a Rams-centric strategy.
Yeah, if I had him on my team, I definitely would because I just don't see any of our corners being able to keep up. But I'm looking forward to seeing the Puka versus Deron Bland matchup because he's very talented when it comes to just covering big receivers. Kind of the same with Gilmore, but I feel like Bland will jump a route too. That's kind of concerning when you're dealing with crafty route runners.
Yep. And
offensive minded coach who will take advantage of it. But it's going to be a good matchup on that edge.
Yeah.
And Jack Meeker saying Jay Lou better be ready. Jordan Lewis is our slot corner. Watching you guys play, I'm hoping they do some type of bracket on the inside with Jordan Lewis, but he's more than capable of keeping up with Cooper Kupp because last time they played, outside of that one dig slip up, we did pretty good coverage against him. So I'm looking forward to that matchup. And Mendoza brings up the comment about Ernest Jones has been playing well for them. So tell us a little bit about Ernest Jones before
Ernest Jones has become one of my favorite Rams players of all time. Like
wow.
He is. It's been so cool to see him. So a 3rd round draft pick from a couple of years ago, 2021, and he's truly someone that you saw him get better each year. And then the Rams let Bobby Wagner go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Ernest Jones, he was the first Rams player to get a press conference in the offseason before minicamp started. Yeah. And you saw a change in him. He went from a boy to being a man. Like he spoke with authority. You knew he was the leader of the defense. He's wearing the green dot. He's like he developed into a leader. Like, you know, some people just like they have that natural like charisma. He was always kind of a like likable guy, but now he's this like charismatic leader that the defense really like rally behind. And like just hearing him speak, even more so, like Aaron Donald's kind of been on the quieter side. Like he'll speak when he needs to.
Yeah.
But on defense, Ernest Jones is that guy. He's the talker, right? Like he's the guy that's well spoken out there. And yeah, he's been a tackling machine. You will see him go all over the field on Sunday. And I've been amazed to see him. He's currently on track to break the Rams franchise tackle record in a season set by James Laurinaitis in 2012. So that's kind of a little bit of history about that's happening with Ernest Jones.
Okay. Yeah. So while we're on the subject of linebackers, let's go to another one of my key matchups. And I could probably throw Ernest Jones in here as well from what I've seen on tape. So we'll go to my last key matchup that I really want to pay attention to. And you're going to have to pronounce the last name for me.
It's Michael Hoyt.
Hoyt. Okay.
Yes.
Michael Hoyt versus Tony Pollard. Now, this one looks kind of unusual, but when I watch the Rams play, and this is completely surprising to me, this dude is huge. He looks like he's 6'4", 300. Is that probably accurate? 290.
He's big. I don't know if he's 6. I think he's 6'3". I don't know his weight off the top of my head. I'm sorry. No,
he looks huge.
He's a huge guy.
6'4", 290. And you guys have been playing pretty much a traditional 3-4 all year.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of nickel from the team.
Yeah.
Which is surprising from what I see, because when I watch you guys play, I'm watching running backs in the flat, and I'm watching this big defensive tackle looking guy chasing them down and trying to play coverage. So I feel like this is going to be a major matchup in this game. But the kid moves well. I don't want to take that from him.
Yeah.
For his size, he moves really well.
He does.
I'm curious, why am I seeing him cover the flat so much?
Oh, part of my laughter. Just Michael Hoyt is a very controversial player in the Rams fandom. Let me preface this by saying Michael Hoyt is a Canadian.
Okay.
So being a Canadian myself, I am a defender of Michael Hoyt.
Okay. I was pretty accurate according to Grant.
Oh, he is 6'4", 3. Okay, I didn't know if he was
6'4", 300 on tape.
Yeah,
but
I know he's a big man. So I do also have a really close friend who went to high school with him. And apparently he was a big basketball player in high school, and he then had some coaches that told him to stick with football, and so he's done quite well to make it in the NFL. He was a defensive tackle that they converted to a linebacker defensive end kind of hybrid. Often when he's in coverage, it can get exposed, and like when we played the Niners, they had him covering George Kittle, and it was just a terrible matchup. And that's when Ram fans get just massively frustrated of like, why is Michael Hoyt covering George Kittle, right? And when Dallas Goedert played, when Dallas Goedert, he was going to town on us when the Eagles played the Rams, and it was like Michael Hoyt covering him for the entire first half, and it was just frustrating to see. Now, that being said, Michael Hoyt, when he truly is at his best, it's when he's rushing the pass.
Rushing, yes.
And he is someone that can be very disruptive, and just like he had 2 sacks against the Steelers. We've seen a 3-sack performance against him, and because Aaron Donald always commands the double team. And so between Michael Hoyt and Byron Young this year, I do see this Rams pass rush that started slow getting better. And I kind of said that at the beginning of this year, that I believe this Rams team is a team that will start slow and get better as the season goes on. And this is kind of the time of year we really got to see it, right? If it's going to happen. But Hoyt is definitely someone that, I cheer for as, a Canadian, and as he's a Canadian in the NFL. But I'm curious to see. I don't want to see him in coverage too much. I like it when he'll be going after the quarterback, and I think that's when he's at his best.
Yeah, but watching the 3 games I watched, he was in coverage a lot. And that was extremely surprising considering the guys you were going against, because you guys played the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
And the Cardinals love putting wide receivers at running back. So
Right.
I was looking at Rondale Moore, who runs a legit 4-2, playing next to the quarterback, and he's running an out and up. And I see this big Michael Hoyt trying to follow him.
Yeah.
The quarterback didn't throw it that way, but it was ugly.
Yeah, it's sort of a feast or famine thing with Hoyt.
Yeah, very talented guy. Did you guys change to a 3-4 this year? Because looking at the tape, I can remember seeing Aaron Donald play almost exclusively on the right side of the offense, like lined up against the right tackles. But this year, I've been seeing him play a lot on the left side against the left guard. So is that just a change that he's made?
He's always been someone they've moved around. This year, though, I have noticed them playing to scheme a lot more. And again, with the departure of Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, and Bobby Wagner, that's something that I think is a scheme thing. But yeah, I'm really curious to see Aaron Donald in this game against Tyler Smith. Aaron Donald, he was injured last year. He's someone that's very prideful. He's very aware of like his legacy, and I like having a player like that on your team that cares about his legacy as one of the greatest players in NFL history. And Aaron Donald was not happy with the way things ended last year, and so this year he's been making an impact. He's been collapsing the pocket. He's been doing the Aaron Donald things. I'm so thankful to say I've seen every snap of Aaron Donald's career, and it's it's been a treat to watch as a fan. But yeah, I'm curious to see. The thing about Aaron Donald is he's super strong, and because he is undersized, he's able to get leverage a lot of the time. And even the best offensive linemen, that they have to prepare appropriately for Aaron Donald when he comes.
Okay, and this is going to be a great matchup because you talk about the leverage. One of the problems Tyler Smith has is with getting low and keeping his hands wide. He's gotten, I think he's started 22 NFL games. He has like 21 penalties. So he gets called for holding and false starts a lot. And that's going to be a very instrumental thing in the outcome of this game, I think, especially with a guy like Aaron Donald in front of him, because it's not going to get any easier.
Are the Cowboys are they a jumpy O-line this year?
Actually, no. It's really just Tyler Smith.
Okay.
we're a jumpy D-line because a lot of outside penalties, a lot. I think we're second in the NFL in the offsides, but the O-line has actually been doing pretty good with false starts this year.
Cool.
So these are pretty much all the key matchups I have. Is there a guy on the Rams team that you think is going to be an integral guy, and you're wondering about who's going to match up against them?
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking it through. Like Byron Young, a rookie who's like 2 weeks ago, he won defensive, like Pepsi Defensive Rookie of the Week. He's a young defensive end for us.
Yeah.
Or will be against Tyron or?
So Mendoza actually put this comment about 15 minutes ago.
Oh, we just missed it.
Yeah, I was waiting to get to it because I had a feeling we go there. But yeah, Byron Young, he's an outside linebacker. Watching you guys play, it looks like you like to play Michael Hoyt on the strong side, and he's kind of playing weak side, so that would probably line him up against Tyron quite a bit. So that would be a really good matchup. And Tyron hasn't been Tyron of old lately, so this kid has some chances to take advantage.
All right. Okay.
On that back end. Is this Byron Young from Tennessee?
I believe, top of my head, I believe so.
Okay. I'm almost certain it has to be, because that's the only Byron Young I could think of that would be a legitimate pass rusher in the NFL.
Yeah, Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay. Grandizer. This was a player of contention in draft chats a couple years ago. Bobby Brown III, I believe he was from Texas A&M, just a big physical athletic guy. I was in the bandwagon that he was going to be a bust. He was just a big athletic guy. How has he looked since Grandizer brought the name up?
I'll say this: role player.
Okay.
He has. I wouldn't say bust, I wouldn't say like superstar.
I mean, I wouldn't look for him to be a superstar, but some people
No,
did.
but like probably better in the run than in the pass, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't have overly strong opinions about Bobby Brown.
Okay. And Grandiers, I asked the question about Mozzie Smith, who's a very controversial player in Cowboys land. And I'll say this about Mozzie Smith, Grandizer. In my opinion, he's doing what he's supposed to do. A lot of our fan base assumed because he was a first round guy that he was just going to come out and get 8 sacks. He's a nose tackle. Like, he's a pure run stopping nose tackle. He's going to play 30% of the snaps. He's going to play on first downs. For you guys who are Cowboys fans, our outside of that Cardinals game, our run defense has been pretty good. And Mozzie Smith has been a big part of that. He just can't touch the field the 45 to 50% that we expect him to, because Jonathan Hankins is having such a great year, and Oso Odigizua is playing at a borderline Pro Bowl level. So when you got two guys like that in front of him, your first round pick just can't touch the field. But he's definitely doing some good things with the limited snaps that he's getting, particularly in the run game, kind of like you said about Bobby Brown. We're not getting anything in pass rush, but if you watch them play in college, you shouldn't expect that.
So just curious, like in that Cardinals game, and I understand it was sort of an any given Sunday, like shocker of the season, but like
it wasn't a shocker for me. But go ahead.
What did the Cardinals? I only saw the highlights of that game. What did the Cardinals do to run it down your throats?
So first of all, certain teams just match up well against other teams. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are a team, they've had our numbers for like 6 years now.
Really?
And yeah, they've beaten us quite a bit. Huh. And I talked about this on the show the week before it happened. I didn't want to say we would lose because I didn't want the chat to destroy me, but I saw the writing on the wall. For one, they like to put wide receivers in the backfield, and our linebackers at the time were not athletic enough to make off tackles. Our biggest struggles are teams that run in the C gap, because our linebacker LVE is not athletic enough to come across the line and meet that running back in the hole. So the Rondale Moore touchdown was inevitable, and then James Conner just being a C gap runner and running so hard without being impeded, we just had no answer for it. And then we underestimated Joshua Dobbs because that was his first game, and there were people in the fan base that were going back and forth with me because I told them Joshua Dobbs is a legit NFL quarterback who hasn't gotten a chance. And they were saying, no, he's just a backup guy. No, the guy's smart and he's mobile and he has a strong arm. He just needed opportunity.
Yep. No, okay, cool. And I'm hoping the Rams can take something from that and try and get a win.
Any team that can run in the C gap against us always gives us problems. And the Cardinals are probably one of the best teams outside of Seattle that do that. So we play Seattle, we play the Cardinals. I'm always expecting a long game. Grandiers asked Mozzie Smith. He's probably closer to 320 now. He's a big, muscular, low body fat type D tackle. So he looks a lot bigger than he is. And then Keystone saying, yeah, he's scared to shoot gaps also. But luckily he's not playing, because we could do a whole show about how he's 265 and he's probably the most timid player on our defense. But luckily for us, well, unlucky for him, he's not playing right now. So our safeties who've been filling in have been doing a great job. Mendoza asked the question, how is Quentin Late look? I seen he had a fumble recovery against the Cards.
Yeah, he's another one of these Rams secondary players that, still developing. Like what we've seen, he's had his high moments, his low moments. I think there's a lot of comparison between him and Russ Yeast on the Rams because they were drafted at the same year.
Yeah,
I think Yeast has probably developed more this year, but Lake had a higher ceiling, but Yeast has reached his ceiling faster, if that makes sense. Where I still think Lake, can develop into a great player, but he's part of our secondary rotation. That's for sure.
Okay. All right, we'll take one more, then we'll move on. Grandizer going through our draft room and bringing up a lot of bad memories. He asked about Junior Fehoko, defensive end. How has he played? Well, he hasn't played, Grandizer, and that's one of my major problems with this draft. Please don't bring up Schoonmaker because I'll cut the show off. But Fehoko, and I'll say this about our team, we're loaded at defensive end. Like, we have 5 legit pass rushing defensive ends. He has no shot of playing a defensive end. So if you look at him playing college, you would think, okay, well, maybe he can slide inside a defensive tackle. We're loaded at defensive tackle. Jonathan Hankins is playing his best ball. We draft Mozzie Smith in the first round. We've got Oso Odigizua, who's playing at a borderline Pro Bowl level. And then we still have Neville Gallimore. So now he's your 5th defensive tackle. He's your 6th defensive end. Why would we waste time in drafting him? And none of the guys in front of him, except for Jonathan Hankins, are going to be gone from this team in the next 3 years. He has no shot of touching the field. None whatsoever. And we wasted a 4th round pick on him. Unless we just start trading defensive ends, he has no chance of touching the field.
Yeah.
I mean, we drafted Sam Williams last year in the 2nd round. He's got 3 more years. D-Law just signed a contract. Micah's still here. Dorrance Armstrong. I'll get off that subject because I get upset. But that was a wasted draft pick for me. I don't see how he touches the field. And Grandizer, Mozzie Smith is playing, despite what fans say. Our 2nd round tight end, I don't want to talk about him. Our 3rd round pick got injured in the preseason, so he was going to be a major contributor. And then Fehoko pisses me off, so I won't say any more about him. And anybody pick day 3, I mean, you get what you get from them. If they play, that's good. If they don't, I mean, it's a day 3 guy.
So you're frustrated of this Cowboys drafting this past year is what I'm sensing.
Yeah, this was probably the worst draft since 2009, which they called the special teams draft, where we drafted nothing but and the guys we drafted this year don't even play special teams, so we can't even call them that.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, Schoonmaker's our number 3 tight end. Fajoko's been a weekly inactive, and none of the other draft picks have been active either. The tackle we drafted, Richards, he showed promise in the preseason, but we're just kind of waiting to see with him. Hopefully we don't see him. All right, so let's get back into the show. We're at 43 minutes. We'll still get out of here a little bit over an hour. The comments have been pretty good. You guys have been doing a good job of
everyone
throwing out questions and comments. Now we get to the point of the show where we really want you guys to participate, and that is with our over-under. So for you guys who are joining us, I'm going to give you guys a statistic based off of gameplay, and you guys tell me whether or not that player goes over or under that statistic in this week's matchup. All right, so let's get into it.
All right.
Over under.
All right, so first over under. We could choose pretty much any receiver on this team, but I'm going to go with the guy who's been the star so far this year. I believe he's averaging 7 catches for 100 yards a game, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's even more ridiculous that he's a 5th round rookie.
Yeah.
So over under Puka Nacua 100 yards in this week's game. Now remember, he's probably going to be lined up, in my opinion, against Gilmore more than Deron Bland. So over under 100 yards, Puka Nacua. Let me know what you think in the comments.
I'm honestly struggling with this just because I'm not exactly sure what the Rams' game plan is going to be going into this.
Okay.
If their offense can get in a rhythm early, if they play like they did against the Steelers, it's tough for any receiver to go over 100, even though Nacua did last game. You know what? I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say over. I think Nakua can have a big game. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if either Tutu or Cup, one of them also had over 100 in this game. But I don't want to discredit Dallas's defense because I know even without Diggs, it's still a legit unit.
Yeah. So going to the comments, Mendoza says over. Raphael says under. Also, Grandizer says under.
Okay, you guys saying under.
And he says he thinks Cup takes away a lot of Puka's targets.
Okay.
Now, let me ask this question before I answer. How was the offensive line look? Because preseason, I was hearing that was going to be you guys like weakest link by like a mile. How have they been looking so far?
They've had some really good performances. They've had some not so good performances. However, I'm still comparing it to last year where we had like 14 different combinations of offensive line and just signing guys off the street. So the Rams offensive line is definitely much improved since last season. It's still a line that's developing. We drafted Steve Avila, who he's been a stud at the left guard position. Then it's sort of like Haven stance on the tackle. We've had injury at the left tackle position between Noteboom and Alaric Jackson. So I think if the Rams offensive line can be healthy, which I think next week they're going to be, they can be solid. They can be solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Steve was a big talking point in Dallas Cowboys draft boards because we wanted him or Matt Bergeron from Syracuse to be our first-round pick, get a left guard, throw Tyler Smith at left tackle. Let's start the future now. So I'm glad to hear that he's playing very well.
Oh, yeah, stud. Like, again, O-line players just don't get any love in the media, but yeah, like I expect him as a blue chip player for the Rams for years to come.
Yeah. And Granddad is saying key matchup Rams O-line versus Cowboys D-line. So, question while we're on the O-line. Kevin Dotson, why is he starting? I'm just wondering. Just watching the tape.
So he okay, so he is starting due to injury.
Okay.
Because so originally coming into the season, Joseph Noteboom was gonna play the right guard position. Then when Alaric Jackson got injured in week 1, they switched Noteboom over to left tackle.
Okay.
Dotson they traded for like 2 weeks before the season started.
Okay.
From the Steelers. And he's actually played pretty well. And like I would say that like he's someone that like when I say the Rams have had their highs and lows, Dotson has been part of that.
Okay.
But given the fact that he was only with the team for 2 weeks, he got put into that right guard spot because of injury. That's kind of where we're at with that. But it has been frustrating because between him and Haven stance and some poor pass protection from running backs, that right side of the line has been able to be, you know, taken advantage of at times this year.
Yes, and I noticed that quite a bit. Let me ask a question. Just draft guy, Warren McClendon from Georgia, a guy that I really, really, really liked. Shocked he fell to the 5th round. Has he had a chance to play at all in the regular season?
Not a whole lot. He's a young player still developing. Yeah. I know there are a lot of Ram fans though that they are tooting his horn and like they want to see him, you know, start even. So I don't think the coaching staff have quite given him that kind of responsibility yet.
Okay, yeah. I mean, just if you just watch the Georgia tape alone, you'll be like, this guy should have been a day 2 guy minimum. Yeah. So the fall to the 5th was a major haul for you guys. Yeah. So I'll say this.
Yeah, for the record, we had 14 picks.
So I'll say this. If the offensive line doesn't block well, particularly on the inside, I think we can hold them to under 100 yards because I feel like our corners, they play very well when they're close to a receiver. Yeah. But if they give Puka 4 seconds to get into his bag, we don't have a chance.
Yeah,
we don't have a chance at all.
And like to the credit of Kevin Dotson, he has been a pretty decent run mauler for us as of late.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And like when Kyron Williams was going off, Dotson definitely had some key blocks in there. And then this past week, when Royce Freeman and Darrell Henderson actually put up a respectable running game against the Steelers defense, Dotson had, he made some holes.
I'm just talking pass coverage.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
He did not look good from the games I saw in pass coverage. You're right. He was modeling in the run game, especially last week. So Mendoza has to do this every week. He throws out a name I'm not familiar with. So could you tell me who this guy is and what position he plays?
Oh, I need a first name. Sorry, wait.
Yep, Mendoza, you got to give us a first name on this one. And we'll come back to that. So we'll go to our next over under. You brought up the running game, so let's go to our next over under, and that is Darrell Henderson. If we got Raphael still listening, I know you're familiar with this name. South Panola High School football legend, went to the University of Memphis, known the kid forever. Glad to see him get a second chance because he's been at home since he got cut from the Rams last year. He didn't stick around LA. He trained at home. He took it back to the basics. And because of the injury to Kyron Williams, he got that second opportunity. And based off of last week, it looks like he took advantage of it. So had a good game last week, still kind of in a split with Freeman, but over under 50 yards rushing, Darrell Henderson. Let me know what you guys think. Mendoza coming in with a quick under for Henderson. Raphael Govan doubting his South Panola alumni going under on him.
I'm having a hard time thinking about this myself because the Rams running back room is just in such a weird place right now. I mean, Kyron Williams, he's out till at least week 12.
Yeah.
Then Ronnie Rivers, our second string, he's out for
he's on IR too, I think.
Yeah, they're both on IR. So then Royce Freeman was on the practice squad, but he gets promoted.
Yeah.
But then the Rams sign Darrell Henderson to the practice squad, and then they promote him from the practice squad. Then they sign Myles Gaskin off of the Vikings practice squad. And then they still have rookie Zach Evans. A lot of people were upset because they started Zach Evans thinking he would get the thing, but he ended up not getting any carries on Sunday. And
they should have called me because I picked up Darrell Henderson the minute I saw he was signed.
Yeah, and I will say this. Darrell Henderson has been productive in the Rams offensive system, for years, right? Yeah. And so I'll admit to I started him because I was like, you know what? Out of all these running backs, I think McVay trusts Hendo the most. So I'm happy to say, let's go, Hendo.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I really don't know what to make of this running back room right now. I think that Henderson getting 50 yards isn't out of the question, but I think I'll go under in this one. Okay. Mainly because I think the game script probably just won't call for it on the Rams' perspective.
Okay. So everybody's saying under, except for Keystone Cowboy. He's saying over. So Keystone, get in the comments since you're kind of the lone wolf on this one. Let me know why you think he goes over. I'm leaning under also, but I could see him possibly going over because he could get that one explosive run. I'm leaning towards under though. So Keystone, let me know in the comments why you think over. And Grandires are helping Mendoza out.
Yes. He hasn't touched the field yet.
Okay.
Ochan Mathis. There's a lot of people that are excited about him. He started this season injured, so I'm not exactly sure if that's something that's still a factor. But I can't speak to anything more than he got injured in the offseason. and I think he was injured until week 4 this year, but he hasn't really touched the field yet. But he's still a rookie.
Okay. All right. So got one more over under for the Rams, and then we'll go to the Cowboys. So interesting stat. Looking at Matt Stafford, he's averaging 250 yards passing the game, which is ridiculous. Yeah. Well, it's understandable considering how great Puka's been playing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot of passing yards for a 38-year-old quarterback who's coming off a major elbow injury, or was it shoulder?
He had an elbow injury.
Injury, yeah. So coming off the elbow injury, offensive line is supposed to be depleted. It's supposed to be a rebuilding year, and he's just coming and slinging it all over the field. So over under 250 yards passing for Matthew Stafford. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
I'll just say this about Matthew Stafford. I was talking football with one of my buddies this week, and I told him, I'm like, yeah, Stafford's currently 4th right now, like in the passing leader for the NFL. And he was like, Matthew Stafford is not top 5 in passing. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's like, let me see. And so he looked it up, and he's like, oh, he is. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are surprised of like, oh yeah, Matthew Stafford's still a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
And like he has like, again, I think when you compare him to like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, right? They're like, he's not a mobile quarterback. He is truly a pocket passer, but he's a really talented, pocket passer. He is, one of the biggest arms in the NFL still. If he gets in a rhythm with his offense, he is a quarterback that can pick apart a defense, and high football IQ, big arm. That's a dangerous quarterback.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I think overall, I think you guys pretty much have to live and die by the pass this week. Hopefully our offense picks it up, but I just think that's where your advantage is if your offensive line holds up. If your offensive line holds up, I mean, we can't cover you guys receivers. Keystone saying McVay might get sneaky with Tyler Higbee also.
Big rig.
Yeah. Our safeties have not been covering tight ends as well as they have in the past, so you definitely can sneak him out there and get a couple of key catches in the game also.
Yeah, Higbee just got paid a couple weeks ago, and people were like, what? Why'd the Rams sign him? Because he's not like a lot of people talk about like Kelsey or they talk about Goddard as like the top tight ends. But Higbee, though he often is more of a blocking tight end, he's made some big catches for the Rams, and he is someone that can move the chains for the Rams for sure. And every now and then he has a game where he gets like 2 or 3 touchdowns. So we'll see if that's this game.
Yeah, and Grandires are kind of coming in saying Zach Evans or Royce Freeman will have to go off on the Cowboys D-line. I don't see that happening either.
Yeah.
Zach Evans was a talented kid out of Ole Miss, but you got to know how to pass block in this league.
And I think Zach Evans, say it like he is, he's someone who's still developing as an NFL running back.
Exactly.
And
he couldn't block in college. So I know he can't block in the NFL.
Yeah.
I see I got my guy Jeff joining us. Jeff, thank you for joining us. We're at the end of the show, Jeff, so you can participate in a couple of these over-unders before we get out of here. Let's do a couple of Cowboys over-unders.
Sure.
I don't have the pretty graphics for those, but I'll just throw a couple of them out.
Cool.
So we talked about Darrell Henderson. Got to talk about Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Giving the keys to the car this year. Had a couple of decent games, not to what the Cowboy fans expect. So coming off a bye week, he should be well rested. Offensive line is finally starting to gel. I don't know if you know this, but our offensive line, the starting 5 we have right now, our true starting 5, they've only played together for 3 weeks, like ever. We drafted Tyler Smith last year. Tyron Smith got injured, and then he had to come back later in the year and play right tackle. So then we go into the beginning of this year. Tyron Smith was healthy, but Tyler Smith was injured. So we missed him a couple of games, and then Tyron Smith missed a game, and then week 4, everybody was there. So the offensive line we dreamed of has only played together 3 weeks. Let's hope they worked out some kinks during the offseason. I'm going over hoping those kinks got worked out and they show it off this week.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I go over. The Rams have been a team that teams have been able to run the ball on, and yeah, I wouldn't put it past Pollard to go over 80 yards.
Okay. Raphael saying under. Mendoza saying over. Grandi saying over and over. He's even giving the fullback over. Mendoza got over. Jeff has over. So I don't have the graphics for these, but over under 70 yards CD Lamb. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Over under 70 yards for CD Lamb in this week's game.
You know what? I'm going over on that too.
Okay.
I truly do believe. I think this is going to be a game where teams. I don't know if both these teams will finish drives, but I think they will get yards. I think they will move the ball between the 20s, and I think that Lamb will be a big part of that for sure.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. Lamb has been kind of getting the all-star treatment the past couple of weeks. He came out and complained a little bit against that Niners game, and he got kind of the squeaky wheel against the oil treatment in the game against the Chargers. Seven targets, 7 catches, 120 yards. So I feel like, yeah, definitely he's gonna get some well-needed attention from Dak this week as well. So everybody saying over again in the comments.
Everyone's going over.
Yeah. All right, so Cowboys fans, I'll put this one on you. We haven't seen much from our number 2 wide receivers, whichever one that may be. Michael Gallup's getting a lot of targets. I'm sure a lot of Cowboys fans would agree they're unnecessary targets. And we made the big signing for Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
Had like
former
1,000.
Ram.
Yeah, former Ram. Had like 1,000 yards almost everywhere he went. This is a bit of
a in a Super Bowl. It will haunt me the rest of my life.
This is somewhat of a rivalry game for him, but he's played them before. Over under one of our other receivers, 60 yards. Gallup or Cooks. If you say over, let me know which one it is in the comments. Over for Michael Gallup or Brandon Cooks. Which one gets over 6? If either one gets 60, which one gets over? Or if you say under, just say under.
I'm gonna say Cooks over myself.
Okay.
I just think this is a game where both teams are able to move the ball. I don't see this being a punt fest.
Let's see what we got in the comments. Keystone, and I agree, Keystone. If McCarthy does not get Cooks involved, I'm definitely questioning him and Jerry because this is getting ridiculous at this point. And Mendoza saying over for Cooks, so he's agreeing with you. Grandizer saying Rams defense is raw and unpolished. That's the biggest defense in the league.
Yeah, Grandizer is saying exactly what I think in regards to the Rams defense is. They're going to get better as they develop, but yeah, they are a raw defense.
So have you guys been generating a lot of sacks?
I wouldn't say a lot. I think we're middle of the road. I think we're 13th right now in sacks. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, it's the pass rush has been inconsistent. The run defense has been consistently bad.
Oh wow!
Mainly on the outside. Like if you are a team that can run to the outside, you can run on the Rams. They've been pretty good at clogging up the middle. But if you're a team that knows how to run to the outside, and I've seen Pollard run to the outside like many times throughout his career. So, that's definitely been a thing. What's been frustrating is the Rams outside of Ahkello Witherspoon have struggled to generate turnovers. And it's frustrating because it seems like whenever the Rams get a turnover, it's always like this huge quest. Like Ahkello Witherspoon had to make this insane low percentage catch that that shouldn't be a pick. Where we don't really punish quarterbacks for throwing bad passes that much.
Okay. And Jeff throwing a shocker in there with Tolbert getting over 60 yards. So I'm assuming you think that the offense made a bit of a change during the bye week, and they finally gave our 3rd round pick from last year a few more opportunities in the passing game. I'd definitely be pleased to see that one happen. So I got one more over under for you guys. This offense normally features the tight end quite a bit. And this year, the tight end has been inconsistent and not been producing. So over under 35 yards receiving for one of our tight ends. Jake Ferguson, Schoonmaker, McEwen, whichever tight end plays. Over under 35 yards receiving. And if it's over, let me know which one you think. And while they answer the question, Payo, how's your team been looking against tight ends so far? Do you guys use linebackers? Do you bracket? Do you let safeties cover man? How does that work?
They definitely, unfortunately, use linebackers, and that's when you'll see Michael Hoyt in coverage, which is frustrating. You know what? Elite tight ends have destroyed us. Like Kittle had a game against us. Dallas Goedert had a game against us. Zach Ertz didn't have that big of a game against us, but he was involved. The Cardinals, the Rams have had the Cardinals number for a while, so they didn't really have much of a game against us. But the tight end is, if you have an elite pass catching tight end, he's definitely someone who has a chance to have a big game on the Rams.
Okay, so let me know what you guys think in the comments, and that'll be our last over under. And add Princeton Fant to that over too. I don't know who Princeton Fant is. Is he a Ram?
You mean Noah Fant for the Seahawks? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, we don't have a fan on our team.
I'm not sure what Grant is talking about now.
All right, so we're gonna do a pregame show. So we're gonna keep our game predictions for this Sunday at 11:15 Central Standard Time for everybody watching. But since we have you here now, we will get what you think are 3 keys to victory for your team winning, and then also give us your game prediction.
And again, appreciate you saying that. So keys to victory, I think the first and foremost is this offense needs to get in a rhythm early, and they need to stop settling for long field goals. Former Cowboys kicker got released by the Rams this week. He was actually having a pretty decent season, but obviously he had
how he tricks you.
The
same way.
So maybe McVay's just showing he's that much better of a coach than McCarthy by getting rid of him this week, because they did release him, and so we're either going to be starting. It looks like a undrafted. I wouldn't call him a rookie kicker because he's kind of bounced around, but an unproven kicker. I can't even pronounce his name. But I saw his press conference today. Like, you get excited about a guy, he knows this is his shot to be an NFL kicker. Or it's going to be Mason Crosby by the looks of it.
Mm-hmm. So
the Rams it's been frustrating. They've settled for field goals so many times this year. And so I think getting into rhythm on offense is the first key, but then also not settling for there's a difference between a 20 or a 30-yard field goal or a 50-yard one. And that seems to be what the Rams have been settling for a lot recently. And so not settling for those long field goals. And then I'd say the third and the biggest one, and we haven't even really talked about Dak Prescott on this episode, is we got to get after Dak. If we want to not let this, Cowboys offense, get, put so many points up against us, we need to make his life horrible. Dak is someone that I know he likes his clean pocket.
Yes.
And when you get close to him, he starts, pat the ball a little bit. He does his pump fake that no one falls for sometimes. That's my biggest criticisms of Dak Prescott is he has a pump fake that is so slow.
Yeah.
Like, does that frustrate you as a Cowboys fan sometimes? Like,
A lot of stuff about Dak frustrates me. I have an unwritten rule that I don't bring up Dak Prescott on the show.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't.
It's fine for you to bring him up, but
okay.
Our fan base, when you hear the name Dak Prescott, then everything just flies out left field, right field. So I try not to bring him up, but I mean, it's no problem if you want to talk about Dak in any way.
I just think that like Dak, he's not by any means a bad quarterback, but like there's just some little things about his game that I think haven't developed as he's grown in his career that other defenses have picked up on, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a 7-year guy. You would expect to see a lot more from him. One of the biggest things that bothers me, whenever there's any type of pressure, he always goes back into the right. Like even if the pocket's clear right in front of him, he goes back into the right. He does that ugly pump fake, and then he refuses to throw the ball away, even though he's out of the pocket.
Right.
So yeah, it could be frustrating at times. If we saw the Dak from the Chargers game, that's good Dak because he's breaking tackles, he's getting out of the pocket, he's throwing the ball, kind of schoolyard plays, which is what he did at Mississippi State. And after the ankle injury, he just kind of went away from that. I don't know if it's because of him or because the front office kind of told him not to. Based off interviews from the team, it sounds like it's the front office more than him. But he just had to do it that game because it was kind of a must win against this former OC.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to give a game prediction or you want to hold off on that?
I'll say this. I am someone that I never pick against my team. I'm a homer in that. And so I do believe the Rams win this game. I am predicting this to be a sneaky good game. And I think the Rams will win this something like 35-30.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll definitely note that. And guys, for all the Cowboy fans, be sure to join us this Sunday, 11:15 Central Standard Time on the Cowboy Zone, where we will do our game predictions and our bowl predictions. But before we go, Grandizer did ask a great question that I do want both of us to answer. So even though you did give your prediction, I haven't given mine. If your team wins, who do you think the player of the game has to be in terms of the team winning the game?
I think that this game will need our quarterback to step up. It's got to be Matthew Stafford. He's got to have himself a game. You know, he was born and raised in Texas. I know he likes playing in Dallas because he has family that comes to the game, and I would love it if he can put on a show for him.
And Keystone saying Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I agree, Keystone.
Yeah, I'm gonna say for the Cowboys it has to be Pollard, just for the reasons I brought up. Watching how you guys play, he's gonna be in the flat against a 300-pound defensive end. We love to run the ball, which I don't know why. We run in the A gap a lot. I'm hoping they change that during the bye week and they start to give him some more outside runs that he could take advantage of. So I'm expecting to see Pollard have his first kind of breakout game this year.
Okay.
125 total yards, something to that effect. I think Lamb's going to have a good game also, but I feel like Pollard has to be the one to take the step up to help kind of push us over the top in a close game.
Marcus, do you mind? There is one more thing I'd love to talk about before we end the show.
The floor is yours. We're done now. I have an announcement. Other than that, it's on you.
Well, I always want to respect your time. And everyone watching, it has been awesome. We've had a great chat. Very interactive tonight. We talked about the Rams, talked about the Cowboys. I want to get your honest take here. So last year. And I'm not saying this as a trash talker or a hater. Just I want to intelligently talk about football here. Last year, the Cowboys had a embarrassing loss to the Niners in the playoffs.
We had one this year too.
No, that's it. Like it's back-to-back years, and I think before that game, I was someone I was like, you know what? I think this is the year. I think this is the year the Cowboys make it to the Super Bowl. And I, on the internet, said that. And I had Cowboys fans that all of a sudden were like, oh, we love this Rams guy now. Like,
that's all it takes.
But then and my specific reasoning was the year before. I'm like, okay, the Dallas lost in a kind of a weird fluke, mental error way. There's no way that happens 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe I said that because it happened, right?
Yep.
I feel like now this year, Cowboys fans have been a little bit, humbled. They've been a little bit quieter. They're still, a rowdy bunch. But is there this thing in the Cowboys fandom right now where you think you're going to make the playoffs, and looking at the NFC, that's not unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to that playoff game, there's like this thing that's like you're just waiting for that moment. That's going to be this iconic blunder moment. Is that kind of where the Cowboys fandom is at?
I would say it depends on what fan you speak to. So, and I feel like this is any fan base.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 types of fans, and this is one of my rants that I do all the time.
Yeah.
You have the bandwagon fan. That's the fan who's been a fan for 50 years. They'll keep bringing up stuff from 1987, and everything after that is garbage. So those fans will never be pleased.
Yeah.
And then you have the overly optimistic fan who thinks every player who joins the Cowboys team is a Pro Bowler. And anytime we lose a player, no matter how little they produced, it was the biggest mistake in the world. Mm-hmm. So you got those 2 different ends of the spectrum.
Extremes, yeah.
And then you have the middle ground where I feel like a lot of people who watch this show, and which is one of the reasons I love doing this show, we're realistic fans. Yeah. And we just feel like, in particular with like the playoffs now, we just keep running into that one bad matchup. Yeah. And it's been Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and the Niners. 2 of them are gone now. So we just have to find a way to avoid the Niners. Yeah. If we can avoid the Niners, I feel like some of us, like me, I'll be happy to just see us get to the NFC Championship game. Okay. And in my mind, I'm trying to figure out how can we do that and avoid the Niners. The ones who are on the bottom end, they're going to always be on the bottom. The ones on the top going to be on the top. The ones in the middle, I wouldn't say we've been humbled, but we know what we are. Yeah. Most of us have an idea it's not going to change, and we just have to hope that we get the matchup that's favorable. And personally, the Niners going on this little losing skid, that's bad for us. Because if they were number 1, if we stay at number 5, which I expect us to be, we could kind of avoid them going to the NFC Championship game. But if they fall down to 2 or 3, which it looks like they are, we're going to have to see them in the divisional round again. And despite how bad they looked against the Browns and the Vikings, and they'll probably look bad against the Bengals this week, they're not going to look bad against us.
No, thanks for the perspective. And just one follow-up question. If the Cowboys are 1 and done in the playoffs, does Mike McCarthy get fired?
Now that was an interesting question. Honestly, we don't know.
Okay.
We expect him to get fired last year and Kellen Moore get the job.
Right.
For the past 3 years, everybody expected Dan Quinn to get the job. This year, I would probably say it's closer to yes, because Mike McCarthy has no excuses. Like in the past, I didn't help out with the offense. This was all Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
He ran Kellen Moore out of town now. This is his offense. This is his staff. If they don't produce offensively, it's going to fall on his shoulders. Now, if the front office feels like that's enough of a crime to say, okay, we're going to get you out of here, that's what happens. I guess my question would be, who's going to replace him? Because they've ran all the offensive people out of the locker room. Kellen McCarthy. That's kind of the
no, thanks for taking my question. I'm genuinely curious. Yeah.
And then Jack Meeker saying, yeah, there is also a part of the fan base that believes in superstitious crap like the curse of Jimmy Johnson not getting in the Ring of Honor. We have some fans who believe that Rowdy is the reason we haven't won because our mascot, because we haven't had any success since '97 when Rowdy was listed as the official mascot. So there's a lot of different things going on in our fan base. So yeah,
That's funny.
but I would say I think a lot of us we're hoping we get to an NFC Championship game, but I think we all kind of agree we're going to make the playoffs just because of how weak the NFC is this year.
Yeah, and it'll be curious to see how it all plays out. There's still lots of football, to be played. I do believe the Eagles are beatable and could drop, some games. And then the division, NFC East is still up for grabs for the Cowboys too, right?
I think that's out of the question, honestly. I think the Eagles may be a little bit too far ahead of us right now, unless we can sweep them.
Yeah.
They do have a very tough schedule coming up, but I feel like that last game, they showed they can win despite their weaknesses.
Yeah, they find ways to win. Yeah,
they found ways to win all year because they have not looked good this year offensively.
Yeah,
outside of AJ Brown once again, kind of saying throw me the damn ball, and they've been doing it the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So questions keep coming. Pay, are you free for another 10 minutes?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, no, I'm totally good. Yeah.
Okay. So Grandizer asked the question, and I won't put should the Cowboys or should the Rams be buyers or sellers come trade deadline? And that's a big question going on in Cowboy land right now.
Yeah. So do you want me to go first with the Rams?
You go first, yeah, because okay. I'm curious your takes.
So this is my take on the Rams. As a fan, I would love them to be a buyer, but I have to also be realistic to what the Rams are doing. The first thing the Rams did this offseason that no one gives them credit for is they fixed their salary cap situation. They were in a mess, right?
Yeah.
But they decided, you know what? Let's take 1 year. Let's get our cap situation right. And so, I think next year they're going to have 60 to 70 million somewhere in there of open cap space.
You guys have 40 million in dead cap space this year, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We absorbed so much dead cap hit from Jalen Ramsey trade, from Bobby Wagner's contract, from Leonard Floyd's contract, and the Allen Robinson trade, which again, the most unfortunate, probably one of the biggest blunders in Les Snead's tenure as GM. But anyway, so the Rams, they as an organization, they're like, okay, this is getting our cap situation right, and then all 14 of their draft picks made the team.
Wow, that's crazy. That's unheard of.
Right? And you might think maybe they had 2 or 3 first round picks. No. They had 1 second round pick and 2 third round picks, and then the rest are all 4th, 5th, and 6th and 7th round guys.
That's good for the future though.
Yeah. And so with that, you have to take the angle of, okay, this Rams team saw this season as a year to develop young talent.
Mm-hmm.
They have their first round pick, which if they make it, I don't think they're going to. I think they are going to trade it.
Really?
I just think it's a philosophy for them. They value proven players more than a 5th-year option on a first-round pick.
Because you guys haven't had a first since 2017. Is that
2016?
Right?
It was Jared Goff.
Okay.
Yeah. He was our last first-round pick, and that's just sort of their draft philosophy. Yeah. So I'm a firm believer that first-round pick will be traded at some point.
Okay. Anybody in mind?
Brian Burns is the top of the list, I personally, okay. But or if they could swing a trade for Patrick Surtain from the Broncos, that could be something that they would look into.
Yeah.
But the opportunity's got to be there. They're not going to just make an impulsive decision. But if an elite level talent player comes available, the Rams will definitely, they'll trade their first round pick. They're not afraid to. And with that, I think that this year, I didn't believe the Rams were tanking for Caleb Williams or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stafford has at least 2 more seasons left. I know a lot of people think he's going to retire or something like that, but no, I think Stafford and Donald and Cup, kind of those three pillar core players, are here for at least 3 more seasons. And I just think that this is a year they're like, okay, we're gonna draft all these young players, we're gonna develop, and with that, the Rams have been in all of their games. Like, we haven't been blown out by anybody.
Right. You guys are currently in the 7th seed, I believe.
We dropped to 8th with the loss for the Steelers. Yeah. Okay. And so I think the Rams will fight to try and make a wild card. I don't, given their current roster and the just where their roster is in terms of development, I don't think they see this season as a season to make some sort of Super Bowl run. If they were to get to the playoffs, obviously if you get to the dance, you're going to get on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll see if that happens. But so in terms of being a buyer, I'd like them to be. I don't think the Rams are going to buy any big trades, this in terms of this, this trade deadline coming up.
Okay. So in terms of being a seller, any chance any of the big names move? None. No Cooper Kupp, no Aaron Donald,
the only
Fuller.
No. The only name that maybe, and this is a huge like wild card, is if for some reason like one of another team really needed like a right tackle, and this is all hypothetical. Rob Havenstance, he's been with the Rams a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't shock me if the Rams moved him, but no, sorry, it would shock me, but that would be like the one name that I could maybe see them moving at the trade deadline. Just because he's been there a long time. He does have a bigger contract with the Rams, and the Rams looked to get younger on the offensive line this entire offseason, and he's the one like kind of stable veteran there.
Okay. All right. So just talking about the Cowboys, we've kind of the opposite of you guys. We actually went into the offseason, made a couple of big moves.
Yeah.
Traded picks that we don't normally trade because our front office actually covers draft picks, particularly mid to late round. So we traded for Stephon Gilmore. We traded for Brandon Cooks. We re-signed a couple of key players, Tony Pollard, couple of D linemen restructured, safeties. We kind of had an all-in mentality, and I feel like right now I'm one of the few that believes this. I feel like the team is fairly good where they are. I feel like we just need to make tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
I hear people saying we should try to trade for a linebacker. Well, if you look at the way our scheme is played, our linebackers are safeties. So we're not going to go out and trade for a pure linebacker unless he's just an athletic freak.
Yeah.
We already have Brandon Cooks we're not using. I would love to see them bring in a guy who's a little bit more familiar with the team, but I think we just got to roll with Cooks, get Cooks more involved, and let Lamb keep rocking. You hear talks about bringing in Patrick Surtain. I mean, everybody would love to have Patrick.
Yeah, I feel like every fan base has that rumor floating around their beat writers.
and in reality, it's going to take a first and a piece to get him. And our front office has never done that before. I mean, they barely want to give up a first for Amari Cooper. And then you're going to have to pay him big money when you just paid Trayvon Diggs big money. Right. So I don't think that's happening. Then you hear the Derrick Henry talk. Well, and I cut it off at this because I got a couple other players I would say. But Derrick Henry on his current team has dropped down to 60% of the snaps, first and third down. So he's not just passing downs. He's 28 years old. Everything we saw with Zeke Elliott last year, I feel like we're seeing it with Derrick Henry now. Yeah. So why would we want to bring that into our front office just because his name is big? I mean, the Titans' entire offense has been predicated on Derrick Henry getting the ball, and they're not doing it anymore. So what does that tell you about Derrick Henry? Their whole offensive scheme has been give Derrick Henry the ball, and they're not doing it. Yeah. And he's healthy. So what does that tell you about Derrick Henry? I don't know. But I feel like we should be somewhat buyers
Yeah.
to try to help us make that push because we're right there. I feel like we should be more sellers because we have a couple of defensive players because young guys have stepped up. We can kind of get off of them. Defensive tackle group, defensive end group, and safety group. So I would love to see them kind of be sellers in those spots, but I don't think that'll happen either. And Keystone saying, yeah, they would let them go if the price was right, but their price is way too high for us to be able to take on, I think. Grandizer asked one more question and then we'll get out of here for sure. We're at an hour and 30 minutes. My show is normally going an hour, but it's been great dialogue.
It has not felt like an hour and a half. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been great dialogue, so I didn't want to cut it off. So he asked the question prior to the season, what was your respective team record prediction and how has that changed? I asked that question because I'm curious about yours because I don't know if you felt like this was going to be a rebuild year or not. So I'm interested in your thoughts.
So the way I give record predictions, I kind of take a like floor and ceiling approach to it. And I firmly believe this team would be better than it was last year. There was a 5-win team last year. I saw this floor being an 8-win team. Just when I looked at the record, the schedule, I felt 8 wins was very like realistic. And then for those 50-50 games that in your mind you're like, oh, like they could maybe squeak out a win, or maybe they pump above their weight class a little bit there. I think it could be an 11-win team.
Okay.
So that's where I was at the beginning of the season. I'd say now I still believe it can be an 8-win Rams team this year. I think they're going to be in that wild card spot for that 7th seed if they make it. So I see them in that 8 to 10 win kind of range.
Okay. So preseason, I had us at 12-5. I'm still holding out hope for 11-6. We're at 4-2 right now. We got some tough matchups to face. We still got the Lions. We still got the Dolphins. We still got the Bills. Got the Eagles twice. Looking at how those teams have played so far, I'm not as afraid of them as I was before. I think we'll beat the Bills. I was concerned about their preseason. I just hope we can split with the Eagles. That Eagles game is going to really tell a lot about how the rest of this season goes. Because I feel like we should be able to beat them convincingly, not a beat down, but I feel like we should beat them convincingly at least one time so that if we see them again in the playoffs, we won't have that that fear that we have against the Niners or we had against Tom Brady. Because I feel like that's 100% just fear. You know it's going to happen, and once it starts to heat up a little bit, the team just crumbles around it. So I'm really watching that Eagles game to see how we perform. And Dolphins and Bills, I mean, I think we'll beat the Bills, but AFC games really don't matter in terms of record. As long as we win those NFC games, I think we're good.
And it's going to be interesting because that's something we didn't really talk about. But this game coming up, the Rams and Cowboys, there's a lot of other teams that this game will impact when it comes time to calculate, who makes the playoffs, right? It's a big game.
It is, definitely. And I feel like you guys really do have a shot to get that 7 seed. And I feel like after watching the way the Vikings played, and you guys play very similar to that, if you can get that 6 or 7 seed, you may be able to do our work for us in that first or second round.
We'll see.
That's one of the big things I've been hanging my hat on, looking at the Rams and how they're structured. If you guys use your receivers like you've been doing, you guys can go into San Francisco like Minnesota did, and you can go into Philly and you can put in work because their secondaries are awful.
That's the whole. The Rams are we beat them in the playoffs in 2021 to get the Super Bowl, which will always treasure that win for my life. But the Niners have had the Rams number in the regular season. But anyway, dude, thanks so much for having me on the show. This was a lot of fun.
No, this is great. So before we go, let the people know where they can find you at when your podcast comes on and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah. So I host a watch party for each and every Rams game. Feel free to come in, say hello, and it's a pretty great community there that we mostly Rams fans, but people like Grandizer and other fans from other NFL teams tune in as well, which is always cool.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my biggest thing. But you find me on YouTube. If you put in Payo Time, Payo Time, I'm the first thing that comes up just because it's kind of unique that way. And I'm a Rams fan from Canada. I love talking football. I love talking about the Rams. And that's where you find me.
Okay. So before we get out of here, I got a quick announcement to make. I've been trying to kind of holding it until So a bit of good news, bad news. The bad news is this will be the last episode of the Cowboy Zone for a while. I spoke to my guy Lambo. Lambo's kind of busy with other things. The Cowboy Zone has been our baby together, and I didn't feel comfortable continuing to go on with the format without having him on the show. So last episode we had during the bye week, I had Amanda Foster on the show with DC4L, and she offered me the opportunity to host the podcast that is going to be brand new for the DC4L network. So same time, same great content, but it's going to be under a different name. So look for me next week on DC4L's The Fifth Quarter podcast, 8:30 Central Standard Time on the DCL Facebook group and YouTube. So if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you join both of those groups. We're going to have a great time over there. It's going to be the same content. I'm still going to be here every week giving you key matchups, over-unders. Got a couple other new games that we're going to bring back as well. And also, the reason I'm doing this is because of all of the support that you guys have been giving me in Cowboys Nation. By myself, I'm still a very small podcast, and there's not enough that I can do to thank you guys for what you do for me. But because I'm now being backed by DC4L, I will have the opportunity to give away some great prizes and giveaways. I've already talked to Amanda. There will be an autographed jersey possibly being given away next week. So all you guys have to do, join us on DC4L. It's DC4L on YouTube, DC4L on Facebook. Keep giving those great questions and comments, and we will choose the winner live during the show for our first giveaway next week. I hope I didn't give it away, Amanda, because I see you're watching. If it's not an autographed jersey, it's going to be something great because DC4L gives away great prizes. So be sure to find us. And if you can't find us next week, you can still find me at Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube. So if you hit that subscribe button, I will be multi-streaming there. So you will still get to see that great content. But we definitely want to get you guys locked in with the DC4L network. And
that's awesome. Congratulations, man. That's awesome. You got a new network coming in.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've been talking to Amanda about it for a while, and we're both very excited for what I think this will bring. And Amanda is here now. She says it is autographed and it is a jersey. It's going to be a good one if you guys follow DC4L. So make sure you tune in next week for your chance to win that jersey, and also to just keep fueling the Cowboy Zone DC4L Nation. So that's pretty much all I got for this week's show. Thank you, Payo Time, for joining me this week. Great episode.
Yeah.
I normally cut it off after an hour, but the conversation was so good, I couldn't just stop it at where we were, and we had to follow through with those thoughts.
Absolutely, man. No, the pleasure, is all mine. Thanks again. Look forward to collaborating with you in the future. Good luck to your Cowboys on Sunday. Yeah. And, I can't wait till we collab again, maybe in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And you will see me on your live stream this Sunday for the game as well.
Awesome.
So once again, thank you guys for watching the Cowboy Zone. Be sure to find us. You can find me on Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube for next week, or you can find us at DC4L Facebook or YouTube page. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you this Sunday for our pregame show, and look forward to seeing you guys there as well. And as always, let's go Cowboys. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for watching the Cowboy Zone.